What happens if you do push-ups for 30 days? Let me ask you a question before we begin. If I told you that an exercise you can do right now on your living room floor, in your pajamas, without spending a penny, has been compared to a treadmill test in a laboratory to predict the risk of heart disease, would you believe it? That's right. Researchers at the Harvard T.H School of Public Health did exactly that. And the results surprised even the authors themselves. Push-ups are the most underrated exercise in the world. Almost everyone has done them, almost everyone has stopped, almost everyone thinks it's just something from school gymnastics. But what happens inside your body when you do push-ups every day for 30 days goes far beyond your chest muscles. Let's find out together. I spent weeks scouring studies published in JAMA Network Open, the Journal of Exercise Science and Fitness, and systematic reviews on resistance training to answer this question. Today, you'll understand what happens in the nervous system during the first week, when muscles really start to change, what push-ups do to the heart over the course of a month, and the counterintuitive discovery about doing push-ups every day that most people don't know. In 2019, researchers at the Harvard T.H School of Public Health published a study in JAMA Network Open that followed 1,104 active middle-aged firefighters for 10 years. At the start of the study, each participant did as many push-ups as they could. Afterward, the researchers monitored who developed cardiovascular disease over the decade. The result was surprising even to the authors themselves. Men who could do more than 40 push-ups had a 96% lower risk of cardiovascular events, including heart attack and heart failure, than those who could do fewer than 10. Furthermore, the ability to do push-ups was a stronger predictor of cardiovascular risk than the treadmill test itself in a laboratory setting. One important caveat, which the authors make explicit in the study: the participants were active male firefighters with an average age of 40. The results may not directly generalize to women, older men, or sedentary individuals. But what the study documents is powerful. Push-ups are a thermometer of physical fitness that the body cannot fake. Imagine Thomas, 58 years old, Tennessee, never set foot in a gym. But he decided to take on a simple challenge: 30 days of push-ups, starting from scratch. Not because he wants to become an athlete, because he wants to know what his own body is still capable of doing. What happens inside Thomas's body over the next 4 weeks is more interesting than he imagines. Before we talk about it week by week, you need to understand what a push-up really is, because most people think it's just a chest exercise. The push-up is a compound exercise that simultaneously engages the pectoralis major, triceps, anterior deltoid, the entire core, including the transverse abdominis and serratus anterior, which stabilizes the scapula, and the stabilizing muscles of the shoulders. When you perform a proper push-up from nose to toe, the entire body is working as a unit. A study published in the Journal of Exercise Science and Fitness in 2017 directly compared push-ups with bench presses using a load equivalent to 40% of maximum strength, and found that push-ups produced equivalent gains in muscle hypertrophy and strength in the pectoralis major and triceps over 8 weeks. In other words, to stimulate muscle growth, push-ups are as effective as weighted bench presses, provided the intensity is comparable. Think of muscles as a factory that only expands its production capacity when demand increases. The mechanical tension generated by the body's own weight during flexion is the signal that tells this factory, "We need more," and the body responds. But here's what most people don't know. In the first few weeks, the biggest gains don't happen in the factory. They happen in the logistics system. Week 1, the nervous system learns. In the first week, Thomas will probably notice that it gets easier, not because the muscles have grown, they don't grow in 7 days, but because the central nervous system is learning. Every time you do a push-up, your brain sends signals to recruit motor units, groups of muscle fibers that contract together. At first, the brain is inefficient at this recruitment. It uses fewer fibers than it could. With repeated practice, it begins to recruit more motor units in a more synchronized and faster way. A review published in Human Kinetics on neuromuscular adaptations to strength training documents exactly that. In the first few weeks of a new resistance exercise, strength gains are predominantly neurological, not muscular. The muscle hasn't grown yet, but the nervous system has become more efficient at using it. For Thomas, this means that by the end of the first week, he can probably do more repetitions than on the first day. Not because he is stronger in terms of muscle mass, but because his brain has learned to make better use of what already existed. Week 2. The muscles begin to change. From the second week onwards, muscle protein synthesis is elevated. The pectoralis major, triceps, and deltoids are responding to the mechanical tension stimulus with the process of repair and growth of muscle fibers. A systematic review published in Scientific Reports in 2025, analyzing neuromuscular adaptations to strength training, documented that among the upper trunk muscles, the pectoralis major shows the greatest hypertrophic response to push-up training, followed by the triceps and then the deltoids. In other words, push-ups work these three groups in descending order of intensity, and the pectoralis major responds the most. The core is also being progressively recruited more. Imagine someone who, on the 10th day of push-ups, notices for the first time that their abs are slightly sore the next day. Not because they did sit-ups, but because they kept their body rigid during the push-ups. That's the core responding to the stabilizing stimulus. Week 3, the heart and metabolism enter the conversation. Here's the connection that links this video to what you've learned about hiking here on the channel. Push-ups have a documented cardiovascular component. When you do sets of push-ups at a moderate pace, your heart rate rises similarly to what happens during light aerobic exercise. With regular practice, the heart begins to adapt. Your resting heart rate may start to decrease, just as it does with walking. Furthermore, each new muscle fiber that grows increases the basal metabolic rate, because muscle is metabolically active tissue that consumes energy even at rest. It's a small change in 30 days, but in the right direction. And here's the connection to the sleep video we made on this channel. It's during deep sleep that growth hormone is released in the greatest quantity. And it's this hormone that coordinates the repair and growth of muscle fibers damaged by training. Without adequate sleep, the push-up produces the stimulus, but the body cannot respond completely. Before we get to week 4 and the counterintuitive discovery about doing push-ups every day, which is the most important part of the video, let me ask you something. If you're learning something here, give it a like. This small gesture really helps this channel reach more people. And if you're not already subscribed, subscribe and turn on notifications now, so you don't miss the next videos. Now, week 4, and the truth about doing push-ups every day. With 4 consistent weeks, what the research documents in terms of real-world results includes measurable increases in strength and muscle endurance in the chest, triceps, and shoulders, improvements in core stability and posture, and modest but documented cardiovascular adaptations. An important finding from the comparative study published in the Journal of Exercise Science and Fitness, after 8 weeks of push-up training, participants showed a significant increase in pectoral and triceps muscle thickness, confirming that push-ups with proper progression are effective for real hypertrophy. But here is the counterintuitive discovery I promised. Why doing push-ups every day may be less effective than doing them every other day. Most people who do a 30-day push-up challenge do it every day. The logic seems obvious: more consistency, better results. Science disagrees slightly. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends 48 hours of recovery between resistance training sessions for the same muscle group. During this window, muscle fibers damaged by training are being repaired and rebuilt slightly stronger. This is precisely the process that generates growth. If you train the same muscle before it has finished recovering, you interrupt this process. For complete beginners, someone like Thomas who has never done push-ups, doing them every day initially might work because the volume is low enough to allow for recovery even with daily frequency. But as the volume increases, rest becomes more important. What science suggests to maximize the 30 days? Do push-ups 4 to 5 times a week instead of every day. And use the rest days for chest exercises to walk, stretch, or work other muscle groups. In addition, 3 practical actions can maximize your results. Action 1. Start with your true maximum and progress. There's no magic number of push-ups a day. What matters is progression. On the first day, find out how many repetitions you can do with good posture. From there, try to gradually increase. More repetitions, more sets, or more difficult variations like push-ups with elevated feet. Without progression, the body adapts to the stimulus and stops responding. Action 2. Posture first, quantity later. The most common mistakes in push-ups are letting the hips sink, turning the exercise into something that overloads the lower back, letting the elbows spread too wide to the sides, and not completing the full range of motion. One push-up with correct posture is worth more than 3 with incorrect technique. The entire body should be as rigid as a board from beginning to end. Action 3. Protein and sleep. The 2 pillars of the result. Muscle protein synthesis depends on 2 factors that don't occur during training: sufficient protein in the diet and quality sleep. Research on resistance training documents that an intake of 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day is the range associated with the highest muscle protein synthesis in adults who train. And as we saw in the sleep video on this channel, it is during deep sleep that the body performs muscle repair. Training without sleeping well is like building a house during the day and demolishing it at night. So what happens if you do push-ups for 30 days? In the first week, the nervous system learns to make better use of what you already have. In the second, the muscles really start to respond. In the third, the heart and metabolism get involved. In the fourth, the results begin to appear in strength, in endurance, in posture. And all of this on your living room floor. No equipment, no gym, no money. The phrase I want you to take away from this video is, the most accessible exercise in the world isn't the easiest, it's the most honest. It shows you exactly where you are. And if you show up every day with good technique, progression, sleep, and protein, it also shows you where you're going. Before we wrap up, everything I've shared is based on published research. If you have a diagnosed cardiovascular condition or an injury to your shoulders, wrists, or spine, talk to your doctor or physical therapist before starting any exercise routine. This channel exists to help you understand the science, not to replace medical care. If that video made you want to do a push-up right now, share it with someone who needs a push to get moving. Sometimes all it takes is a piece of information that changes perspective. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, now's the time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Until then.